Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Bishop Robert Hirschfeld, and I serve as the Bishop of the Episcopal Church in New Hampshire that serves roughly 12,000 Episcopalians in the Granite State. I'm grateful for this chance to address this body on an issue that gets to the heart of my traditions, my spiritual traditions, teaching, and the vows Episcopalians make to follow Jesus. This rabbi, I'll just mention him very briefly and then get on. This rabbi put himself between a woman who was condemned to death and an angry crowd that were ready to stone her. And Jesus also willingly chose for himself a brutal execution that freed a condemned traitor and murderer in order to show that the way of forbearance and forgiveness is stronger than hatred and even more effective than execution. It is safe to say that our society is saturated with violence. Almost daily, we hear reports of horrible acts of brutality that are committed by those whose consciences are so distorted as to make them prone to inflict physical, emotional, and spiritual harm upon others. Increasingly, we are hearing how individuals murder, rape, and seriously injure others because their own sense of what is morally permissible is misshaped by what the media and the entertainment industry upholds as not only permissible, but thrilling and even commendable. To live in an American society with its relentless and constant messages and acts of violence in video games, media, advertisements, is to be baptized in a culture that trivializes and glorifies the taking of human life. The church, despite its own violent history, or perhaps because of it, strives to live into the reality of another, more life-giving, hopeful baptism. And it's out of this baptism that I speak. Repealing the death penalty is a way for the state to counteract and push back against the culture of violence. Wherever the death penalty is administered by the state, the dignity of all our citizens is diminished. To ask citizens to participate in the administration of a death sentence through our taxes or through our complicit silence is to make even more virulent the moral and spiritual contamination by which violence distorts the soul of our state and of our nation. Repeal of the death penalty in New Hampshire is an effective and achievable way to assist our families, our teachers, our social workers, our mental health care providers, in fostering a culture of dignity, respect, and nonviolence in our society. I'm grateful again for the opportunity to speak and for your service to upholding the dignity of all people. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you very much. I will call Bishop Peter Libasci. I'm terrible on names. I'm sorry.
Actually, that was splendid, and I thank you very much. Perfect Sicilian.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, as I address you today, I'd like to say at the outset how grateful I am to have been given this opportunity. Today I represent the people of the Roman Catholic faith. and perhaps more broadly as well, many men and women of goodwill who, at certain times and for particular causes, allow a voice such as mine to contribute insights that go beyond personal interest and personal opinion. Debate surrounding the death penalty is serious and highly charged emotionally. Everyone concerned in the debate is ultimately debating the belief in the sanctity and sacredness of human life. We know of the outrageous, awful crimes committed in society. An attack directly on the individual victim and indirectly on the victim's grieving loved ones, and indeed civilized society itself. Such grievous offense against humanity demands a response. The death penalty, though, has been shown to be a faulty response. It neither deters others, nor brings the perpetrator to understand the magnitude of the evil of which he or she was capable. Now, I need to tell you that even in my own tradition, some of my Catholic brothers and sisters have taken me to task, even in the newspaper, saying that in our Catholic tradition, the Council of Trent allowed for the imposition of the death penalty in circumstances. But it must be remembered that the understanding of human behavior, the means of adequate and proper incarceration, the implementation of a humane correctional system have advanced far beyond the vision of the 16th century when the Council of Trent produced its findings. In the present day, the Church, as it does in the course of history, continues to build on its earlier teachings. And so the magisterium of the Catholic Church teaches now through the Catechism of the Catholic Church that today, in fact, as a consequence of the possibilities which the state has for effectively preventing crime, by rendering the one who has committed an offense incapable of doing harm without definitively taking away from him the possibility of redeeming himself. The cases in which the execution of an offender in an absolute necessity are very rare, if non-existent. I therefore support the repeal of the death penalty in the state of New Hampshire as a pledge to do all we can to comfort those who mourn and to put our resources to work for the good of our people's safety and order in society. I thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the gentleman? Representative Robinson.
I'm not, everybody's going to believe this is relevant, but if I'm a good religious Catholic or Episcopalian and I'm asked to serve on a jury, and I think it's something we should all do, but after I'm selected for the jury, I find out that the death penalty is going to be asked for. What is my moral? Can I vote when I find the man guilty, when I know he's going to be murdered? Can I still vote to convict? Or is that a non-question to people?
It's a very good question, and I believe it was alluded to earlier when it was presented that capital punishment, the sentencing to death, is put into the hands of a jury, where such things are not in the purview of the jury. They are usually given to a judge to impose a sentence when one is chosen to be guilty. So that is really one of the serious issues, that when we have the death penalty put before us, a jury that may be inclined one way would vote for, a jury inclined to another way vote against. That arbitrariness, that difficulty poses the exact problem. So a person of faith finds himself or herself in a very desperate position sometimes. And so the repeal of the death penalty would remove that necessity for a judgment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?